All right. I think, let's see. Can you see my screen still?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good.
All right. And let me see. Yeah, and we're recording. So if you see my screen and we're recording, that means all is right.
All is right in the world today.
Yes. Mhm. Awesome. Well, glad that we're working this out. How we're working it out, because frankly, I think there's a good way for me to connect with you. When I read your message, your email saying that 8 p.m. is late and that you just be watching recordings, I thought, well, I've got to figure out another answer, because I wanted to meet with you rather than just record for an hour or two and then never meet with you. So this is much better. Thanks again for calling or contacting James and following through with that. That
Yeah.
puts us.
Yeah, it puts us in a good way to work. Like I said, this is not my first class, nor will it be my last class. That I'll probably be by myself, because from what I understand, since I had my first degree and then I decided to re-enroll into the second degree, I didn't match up with the program, and so they're just throwing me in whenever I'm ready to take a class. So sometimes I'm in with a couple of other students, and sometimes it's just me, which as long as I get the class in, I'm good. And I did Apache work by myself, because again, it was the first time for that class, and it was a trial class, I guess. So I got thrown in that class, and it went very well. I mean, I see it as working with the instructors way easier than being a no, I don't want to do that kind of person. So,
Now you said Apache, and I assume you meant Apache, the web server.
yeah, Apache, the web server. I did that. I think 3 mods ago. It got up and running 3 mods ago, and uh, James Major and Mitch McDonald, they both were in on writing the program for that, or for that mod, and so
Did you mean curriculum, or did
yeah,
you
the
mean
curriculum, yeah, the
okay?
curriculum for that. They collaborated, and it was another class that I didn't start until Wednesday on. So we all three of us were scurrying, you know, um, to get stuff. There was some bugs, but we all worked them all out. So um, I don't mind being the guinea pig in some instances. So
Yeah. Um, the I got notification on Tuesday, and then I tried to communicate you. I tried to look you up in the record of all the students, and I failed to find you in the record, the spreadsheet that they send out of all enrolled students from last mod. And so then I needed to switch gears in order to contact you, because I messaged, I think I sent an email out and looked for your response. So then I wanted to log into Campus View, and my password had expired or something, and I they had me call a phone number, but that was closed. So finally, you and I got communicating last night, and
yeah,
then that's when I discovered. I thought there might be other students, but it was just you. And so I that's when I had the idea last night to, given that you weren't able to meet, I really wanted to begin off meeting with you rather than just doing a recording and then talking to you later. So I'm glad this has worked out.
Yeah.
So, um, so I think you said that you finished a degree already in computer science. Is that, did I understand that
Yeah.
correctly?
Yeah, it was in computer science with an emphasis in information system security.
Okay. And I assume that's through Independence University that you achieved that?
Yeah, yeah. I did that one. I started in 2012, and I was done in 2014 or 15, something like that. And then I got bored, and so I was like, well, heck, I'll re-enroll and see what else I can get into. So I enrolled. I enrolled into this degree, and I'm due to graduate out of this one in April.
Awesome. So, did a lot of the prerequisites carry over from the computer science program, or not so many?
Did I lose?
I'm
Did I
still,
lose you?
I'm
Oh,
still
okay.
here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So, did a lot of the classes transfer over to this program? Did you get double credit? In other words, or did you have to start over from the beginning?
No, yeah, no. It transferred over. I think I started with 90, maybe it was 100 already credits already taken care of. So I've only had to take care of, I believe I've been working on 80, and so I'm at 160 something now. So I'm just at a nice little clip. I think I've got like four classes with the capstone left, something like that, or without the capstone. So I think I have like five more left. And so I was looking into, um, after this, there's a possibility I'll go in and get my bachelor's for graphic design and just be a triple threat all around. So that, because being disabled, there's not much you can do besides go to school, so, or sit on the couch. So I'll go to school instead.
You might be my first triple major. Have you ever thought of getting I think we have a couple master's degrees. Have you ever thought of applying to those programs?
Yeah, later. Oh, do a triple major and then, and then get my bachelor's, I think. I don't know. I'm still putzing around. I do want to start up a business eventually when I'm done learning for getting my degrees. Um, it just depends. I mentor the kids at the robotics from January to April. And so after my son graduates, which is in 2 years, um, I might look into getting a master's. I haven't decided, because once he graduates, I probably won't do the robotics thing anymore. So yeah, he does it also. So I figure, since I've got a kid in the program, it would be nice to mentor the other kids. So
And who sponsors the robotics program?
the school district sponsors it. Well, sort of. We get a lot of our funding from different community businesses, but First Robotics is what started up the competitions, and a group of I think it's about 20 teams or so usually, um, travel to regionals usually in between March and April, and you do a competition, not like the Destructo competitions that you see on
Mm-hmm.
TV, nothing like that, but
Okay. Actually, that's the first thing I thought of. So,
yeah, nothing like that. In fact, you get points taken off if you break someone else's, if you intentionally break someone else's robot. But you do like co-opetitions. Last year's one was like a medieval one, and you had to scale the tower. You had to, weaken the defenses of the towers, and then you had to scale up the tower. And you were all that if you could scale up the tower, because the robots, they weigh at least anywhere from 120 to 160. So to get you to, pull your robot up was inventive. Needless to say, we used a carabiner, a tape measure, and a rope, and it pulled our robot up, which, was accurate maybe 75% of the time. So I do believe we got second last year, so we did fairly decent.
And I think I heard you say that this is your son going through that program?
Yeah. He's a junior now, so he's been going through it since his freshman year, and so he's done helping them build the robot. Last year he was the safety captain, and this year we haven't started yet, so we don't know what this year is going to bring.
And when you say junior, is that in the high school level or college level?
High school level. And then I have my partner who's a phlebotomist at the local lab collection lab for different tests and all that fun stuff up here. So it's a nice little, the three of us kind of thing.
Sure. And I think you said you're in Pocatello.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
My son is up in Rexburg.
Oh, okay. That's not too far from us. That's kind of cool.
Is Pocatello between Idaho Falls and Rexburg?
Yeah. Well, no, it's the other way around. It goes Pocatello, Idaho Falls, Rexburg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's about maybe a little less than an hour away from us north.
Well, for my birthday, one thing that's true about me is I am as what's the characteristic, the character trait? We're kind of having a little brain freeze here, but what's the character trait that you're spontaneous or that you're willing to do something on a dime? Isn't
that the type A characteristic or something like that, or?
That would be a compliment, I think. Some people would call it ADHD, possibly.
Well, it starts with an A.
Yeah, that's true. So I am probably the most extreme version of spontaneous that you'll ever meet. And I'm going to explain to you and prove to you that I'm telling the truth, because I had a birthday 2 weekends ago, I think, and on the 8th. And so I said on my birthday, I said, when my wife asked me what I'd like to do, I said, I think I'd like to go up to Yellowstone. So she takes me very seriously. She said, let's do it. Well, later on the night, and I was a little tired, so I actually fell asleep. And Saturday night, and then the other two went to sleep. Well, I woke up at about 2.
Are we going now?
And I thought, I wonder if I should just get them and put them in the car and I drive. Well, I didn't. I let them sleep, and then after a while, I decided to go back to sleep. So up again at 8 o'clock, Sunday morning now, and I've got work on Monday. So, uh, in fact, I probably have a little bit of work Sunday night to do. So it's Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and I'm talking with my wife, and we're talking along, and I said to myself, I'm going. And so I started getting ready, and I usually can get ready literally in about a minute to do a trip like that. And I have this little, I guess they call it a little sack that little handheld thing that actually goes on my waist. I was ready to go in probably a minute. And I was in the car probably like 10 minutes later, finishing up a few things. And then, so my wife was on board. So she got my son and got ready. Literally jumped in the car at about 10 a.m. and headed for Yellowstone. And so we didn't even tell my son from Rexburg that we were coming. So we were driving in that direction. So we're driving along. And about a half hour out of Rexburg, my wife calls my son, but she doesn't tell him that we're
just down the street.
Yeah. So we're chatting along, and my wife drives to his apartment complex. He's going to BYU, Idaho there. And I go up and knock on the door, and she's still talking to him on the phone. And so the roommate opens the door, and I asked, can I speak with Dylan? And he says, which one? Or Devin? And I said, which one? And I said, Devin Brown. And he said, 1 minute. So, and then my son comes out the back of the apartment, and he's got his phone on. He looks at me, and he says, Dad? Anyway, so we said hello. I gave him a birthday hug. It's my birthday, but and then we got back in the car. Then we drove on and went on into Yellowstone, and I whipped down. Just went to Yellowstone, the Old Faithful. Got there. I got there the moment it shot off. Got a picture of me and had this big sign that says Old Faithful Geyser, and I was joking because I posted it on my Facebook page, and I made a little comment on the bottom. I said, "Okay, everybody, that's not Old Faithful Geyser." So that's not pronounced Old Faithful Geyser. So we jumped back in the car, and then we came back. We came south out of Yellowstone, headed through I think those are the Tetons there during the nighttime. And so we're coming back, and I think I got back at like 4 a.m. and took a nap and went to work.
Oh, I don't think, I think I personally could do something like that, but the other two, no. they would be like, no, I don't want to, you know. I do have an old boss that he retired to become a cowboy again, and he's got a ranch, the Diamond P, and it's up in Yellowstone, and he's got land that goes that he rides at least. It's usually about 20 to 30 horses that I know, that I can remember of, that he rides it across the Continental Divide and makes a loop. And I told him, I go, hey, you know, we're going up camping in Yellowstone. Can I you owe me a horsey ride? Because I used to refinish the floors at the hospital, and they were building a new hospital up here, and you know, we would have to redo a floor that we just did, and we were on a timetable because, you know, the hospital was opening in X amount of days, and I'm like, that's it, you owe me a pony ride and a keg if we pull this out. Well, needless to say, after couple years after he retired, I got disabled. I'm like, well, let's scratch the keg. You still owe me a pony ride. And so we rode up a little bit, and it's really pretty up there. He's asked me to come and help him out on the ranch and everything like that, and I'm like, I don't I don't think that's a good idea. But yeah, everything that I usually do, it's planned out, and like it has to stay sort of near the what I planned out, or I get kind of fidgety. And so I have to be reined in because I'm like, no, it's 7:05. We need to be on the road at 7:10, and you know, 9:25. I finally get my other half and son, ready to go, and it's like, seriously, I am leaving you guys next time.
Uh-huh.
you know,
They're the slow ones.
they
I
are.
have one more story I want to tell you, and then we'll jump in. I apologize, I'm talking so much, but it's very easy for this conversation for me to continue this conversation. So this is my fault for delaying the jumping into the course, but it's been very interesting for me. So I want to say that and preface to this last story I want to share with you. And my daughter called me up, and we're a family that buys cars off of eBay and flies out and drives them home. And so my daughter saw one that she'd been looking for, and I get a phone call here at work, and she says, Dad, help me! There's this car, and you need to help me win it on eBay, And so I'm in a meeting, and talking to her and texting her, and she's going, Dad, help me! It's going to end. So I step out of the meeting, grab my laptop, and in the next minute or two, the auction ends, and we win it with
That's
one,
awesome.
yeah, with one bid, I think it was, or one or two maybe. Anyway, it was a gorgeous little car that she found in Atlanta, and so she's working full time. My wife doesn't work, and my wife offered to fly out and drive it back. And so I thought, I think that would be kind of fun. So to go with her and come back and make it a trip. And so we looked at and the flights were like $240 or so. It's one way to Atlanta. And so I discovered that there was a flight to Orlando for like 120, like half the price of me flying into Atlanta. So what I did is I bought 2 tickets to Orlando. And so when we left that night, I think it might have been the next night because she had to get her financing squared away. We left in the night, flew through the night, landed in Orlando, picked up a rental car because it was going to be cheaper in the end. And then we did a tour from Orlando up the Florida coast, up the South Carolina coast. My son, that same son up at Rexburg, Idaho, had served a church mission there in South Carolina. We drove up through the cities where he had served, and then ended up in Atlanta. Dropped off the vehicle, picked up the car that belonged to my wife or my daughter had bought. We had brought cash with us. It was like we're packing like $8,000 in cash. This lady did not want a check, So I'm thinking, okay, so here we are, all $8,000 in cash, and so we get the car, and we go from Atlanta, all go north and up through Kentucky, where another one of my daughters was working, and we hung out with her, and then we drove back to Utah from Kentucky. We checked out the Churchill Downs, toured that, and then drove back across the nation. And I loved it.
That's just it. I mean, that sounds like, that I don't know if I could handle all of that, because said, I've already been planning for my 40th birthday. That's 2 years away.
How about that? Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I want to go to Chicago. Oh, I
I'm the
want
antithesis of planning.
yeah, I gotta do Chicago. I gotta go to the training the Bears' football training camp. I'm gonna I want to do this, that, and the other thing. Maybe catch a Cubs game. And
Nice.
my partner's like, okay, it's 2 years away. I go, and your point, it's a 40-year. You only turn 40 once.
Yeah, it's like, what's your point?
Yeah, yeah. I'm just like, hello.
Yeah, it's like you don't understand. By the way, I'm from Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I grew up in Detroit, so I'm a Detroit Lions fan, more or less. University of Michigan fan. I attended Brigham Young University, and pretty much stayed here in Utah. My mom and dad moved out here back in 1980, and they lived here, and they both passed away. But another trip that I was that close to doing, the weekend of my birthday, was to fly out to Maine and Vermont and to drive with my wife and to rent a car, just drive through all the colors, at their peak. And then go along the Northeast and then go on up into northern Michigan too, because the first year we were married, we went up there and it's just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous colors. I just loved it. So
yeah, I've got a goal in my life to hit all 50 states. I'm almost there. I think I've 24 to 25 states already down. So we're going up to Chicago this summer, but we're doing a train instead of flying because I, of course, want to get my states in. So, and I know, where I'm going to be, it butts right up to Michigan. So I'm hoping that with the graces, I can, just hop the line really quick and come back and, all right, cool, kind of thing. But my dad was born in Chicago, and I'm actually from California. I was born in California, and but my dad raised me on the Bears and the Cubs.
you're not a fantasy football. You don't play fantasy football online, correct?
Yes, I do. I have, in fact, I have a league that is just free. I set it up as free, and I play with my brother.
Good for you.
Yeah, and my dad raised me up on it. I saw the '85 Bears, on TV. I breathed the Bears, kind of thing.
Yeah.
My brother has jumped ship and he's gone to the Vikings. But my dad passed when my brother was 9, soon to be 10, and I had just turned 21. So I got most of the Chicago feeding of Bears and Cubs and all that fun stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah. BYU sent a quarterback to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. Can't remember his name.
He was a crazy personality. I think it was Jim McEnroe, if I'm not mistaken. Very, very, very unusual guy.
Yeah, that was in the early 2000s, wasn't it?
Possibly, I would say before that. I would say he may have been in the 80s, in fact.
Oh.
So, all right. I love talking to you, and now I'm going to turn off my webcam and get down to business.
Let's get into it.
Let's see. Stop video. All right. So, okay, we've got a lot more to talk about. And you've already probably seen my here. It does say Monday night and Wednesday night, I think 8 p.m. But we'll adjust that. In fact, we can even be flexible. So then, if you probably looked at my background, I work now at Unique Products, and let me show you our website. Unique Products is a direct sales company, and we develop. We have cosmetics, and we use our website to market them. And so we don't personally do any selling, but we actually are what is considered a party model direct sales multi-level marketing company. And we're in the United States and Canada and Mexico, France, Germany, UK, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Spain, and Italy is coming up. So,
oh, sweet. Yeah, that's it. My heritage is from Italy.
awesome. So I want to tell you a little bit how we do what we do here. We have all our website in an online repository called GitHub, and GitHub is free for me, but the people who have the repository, they pay. So our company pays a little bit. When we log in, we have this thing called two-factor authentication. And what that means is that they're wanting to
Make sure everything except for DNA, it's you.
yeah, they want to make sure that it's me. And so it's one thing for me to have my password, but it's another thing to actually have my cell phone, which has an app on it, which communicates with the back end of the authentication engine here. And my cell phone, in fact, I can maybe show you really quickly. Let's see. I'll go turn my webcam back on. So right here, my cell phone has this app on it, and it gives me a number. And the number, one of these numbers is for GitHub to be my two-factor authentication. And it changes about every 15 seconds. And so I type in my number, the number that's showing on the screen, and it coordinates with the back-end servers, and it coordinates the fact that it knows that it sent this number to me. So now when I provide it the number that it's constantly refreshes new numbers to me, then it lets me in. So it's called two-factor authentication. Password is first. This is the second. By the way, this other number there on the bottom, this one here is for a different system that I have to log into for two-factor authentication, and that's called Amazon Web Services. I'll show you that here in just a minute, so you're familiar with that. So our repository is called Unique LLC. The branch code repository itself is called Code. Our company has several code repositories. This is our website. This is an API or application programming interface that we're testing out to enhance our website to make it so that the website communicates on the back end with an advanced API that's our own custom API. So it's kind of a layer underneath the website. And then we have code deployment, code repositories. We have a code repository where we set up a virtual machine where, turn off the video. The virtual machine enables programmers to set up a virtual machine right on their own desktop or laptop. It basically creates an environment. It scales up on its own and creates a development environment instantaneously. I say instantaneously, but in a few minutes. That's custom. Exactly has all the component modules to support a developer to begin working in our environment. And
yeah, I've got NetBeans, not NetBeans. What's it called?
Yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about.
Or it's not Oracle. Or maybe it is Oracle.
No.
No. Yeah, I've got an Oracle virtual machine, and then I've got, oh, yeah, it is Oracle. This is the one that I was using for the Apache server.
Oh, VirtualBox.
Yeah, the VirtualBox
Yeah,
by Oracle.
by Oracle. Yeah, that one's, yeah. So, yeah, that's one of them. So we set it up so you can to log in quickly. Deployment tools, we have a set of code that talks to a Drupal, that's a content management system, or CMS. Drupal it's a free open source content management system, and this is where we put all our strings on our website, because when we translate, we have all these strings are in that Drupal system in the English language, but we actually have translations in each of these. So Spanish, all this content dynamically comes on the web page, on the back end. It's talking to the Drupal system and basically saying, hey, give me the, this I guess is the Spanish, the US Spanish word for, and it gives it the English, and it popped out the Spanish. And so it's all these strings are dynamically pulled from the Drupal server. And for example, here, so we have this one web page in the scripts, and this one web page talks to this back-end server here. The code, this is the code base that talks to it, and dynamically gets the translated words. This is for DevOps. It's a way to scale up servers, production servers. This is for development client boxes. This here is for production servers, and we're doing some other code bases. This is for integrating with our enterprise requirements planning systems. We integrate with a lot of systems in the cloud, and so NetSuite's one of them, and the commission engine is its own system, and our website communicates with the commission engine to calculate commissions, and other third-party environments. This is for QA and testing. Code repository where we document some of our coding standards, and some apps for mobile development. So each of these are code repositories. So here, this is the main one that gets a lot of activity, and so this is the code. And I was telling you earlier about how we called that Drupal API. We created I think Drunique is how we call it. And so this is how we dynamically pull the translated if it's English, it comes out personal use, but we pass in the English, and this dynamically on the fly pulls out, depending on the market that we selected, the language that we selected, we'll pull that out and display that dynamically. So we're pulling each of these we pass this as a parameter, and it pulls out dynamically the translated string onto the web page. And so when the web page is rendered, it doesn't have this. It actually has the translated words that are dropped in here. And as you can see, the HTML dynamically in these CTP files, that stands for Cake template files. And Cake it's a PHP framework that we're built on. And it uses these CTP files, which are basically template files that it consumes. It uses, we edit them. A Cake file looks very much like an HTML file with scripting segments in it. These are dynamically used and consumed by our Cake processor. And so you can see it's basically going to be rendering HTML in the end. It makes a call. You can see this is like a PHP call, PHP script going on right inside there. And this is the script itself. It's taking place, renders, goes and grabs the content of the translated string, and then it'll come out with H1 headers right around it, and so it's all dynamic. The way we generate our website, and and this is the code base. So we have an API component section to it. We have an admin tool section to it, and then we have a regular KGAP. The KGAP, this is the portion that really comes out to the screen. The website technically is really in this area. All the other parts that we're looking at are like supporting parts. I mentioned earlier that we have an API. We're developing the API even further to be a version 2 API, so that the front end actually talks and makes calls into the back end server through controllers, models, and so on. And so this is kind of an API into our back end database, the models from our database. We even do a thing called Finks. These are called migration scripts. They're basically SQL commands, structured query language commands. You may have heard of SQL before. This one here is done using the Finks command language, so it's kind of like the SQL. Let me see if I can find one. It's strictly SQL that's being processed. Here we go. So what this is, all these is when we make changes to the code, it will sometimes your changes require changes to the database schema itself, like adding a table or altering a table, maybe inserting records and so on. And so we create a little mini script that goes along with that feature change, and they go hand in hand. And so what happens is when the feature itself is tested and goes out to production, we run this script. We run it in environments where we're testing the software, but then we also run it when it goes live in production. So literally dynamically on the fly, we change the schema, we change of the database, we insert records, so that the code that's going live that's dependent upon this database change, it all happens like instantaneously. The code goes out to our production servers, and the SQL is executed on our database. So that's how we literally patch our software dynamically on the fly. And
yeah, I've got this on my computer too.
Oh.
I had to install it when I was doing the Apache server.
Oh, you got SQL Workbench?
Yeah, I've got SQL Workbench, WAMP server. I got Genymotion, XAMPP, MAMP, MAMP Pro. Yeah, I've got a number of Visual Studio. But most of it's been MySQL, because I did a couple of mods ago database editing and making of tables and so forth.
Awesome. So this is the database that gets dynamically tweaked. If we dump our database, it's about 8 gigabytes right now and of data. So that's growing, and the tables are growing, and so we dynamically patch our software using this mechanism called Finks migration scripts. So that's really helpful to keep all the databases in sync, because we actually stage I use this one spreadsheet to keep track of all the staging environments where we're doing testing, and it's my little spreadsheet. I'm the release manager, so I'm in charge of putting code in a testing environment, and we named the branch, and so this is kind of how we keep track of what's where and the priority. We have all these different testing environments, and we test the code change that they've made. What the people do is they create a branch, and here we've got all these different branches, and so the programmer creates a branch in Git, and it duplicates it, and then we take and make changes, and you can actually create what is called a pull request, which was basically an attempt and a desire on behalf of the programmer to take his changes and merge them into the master. And so here you can GitHub, you can take these pull requests, and a pull request is, hey, I made these changes. can you go ahead and stage them and have them tested? And if you like them and you can do a code review on them and it's all good to go, we'll go ahead and take that and we merge it into, that's exactly what this will do. It'll merge the code that's in this copy of the code branch, plus its changes, and it merges them into what is called our develop branch. The develop branch is where, when we do functional testing of all these in these different environments, as they pass, we merge them into the develop environment, and then we take all of those past features every day. We test them. We do what is called regression testing, and so we do a regression build for regression testing, and then that goes, when it passes, then this one will actually get merged to our master branch, not the develop branch, but the master branch. As you can see, this is the name of this combined, what was the develop branch has now become a release branch copy of that develop branch. The develop branch will continue to be merged into with passing features while I have taken a snapshot of it, which is this branch here. And we test this. And you can see it's a snapshot, a combination of all these other branches of code that have been merged together into develop. And then when this passes, and we do this every day, when this passes, it gets merged into master. And once it gets merged into master, it runs what is called unit tests. And down here, we automatically have these unit tests running. There's a system, it's called continuous integration. And it actually connects directly with GitHub in a fashion where that service connects with our GitHub where our code is. And this runs through all these processes to it run PHP unit tests. So we have automated testing going on, and it also does some processing. We compile the JavaScript to make sure there's no errors in it. We make sure there's no errors in PHP. Make sure no errors in the cascading style sheets. And if it all passes, then it's ready to. It then creates a tar file, which is like a zip file, and we take that and we deploy it. And I'll show you what that looks like. We deploy it using Amazon Web Services. It's online servers. And so we take that tar file that got generated because we've already passed the QA and the code review, and now we have it ready to, it's like bundled up. And now we then get it out to production. And when we get it out to production, I have to once again do my two-factor authentication, except for my password. I've got my password that this is not too secure. If I type in my password, it's a secure password, but I don't know it by heart. So that should have been two-factor. I actually turned off my two-factor the other day because I forgot my phone, so he hasn't turned it back on. Oops. So I have here where the code, that tar file, that zip file, that's sitting on, it's called sitting in an S3 bucket. And S3 is like the terminology used for almost like a folder or disk drive available on AWS or Amazon Web Services. I think you might know the story behind Amazon Web Services. Basically, it was the infrastructure that Amazon put in place in order to support their online shopping cart. But it got so valuable that they ended up reselling it, and now they're the largest provider of virtual servers and in the cloud. So
yeah, I think they're grandfathered in for they're the ones that pretty much produce the cloud.
Yeah, I definitely think that they originated it, and so they essentially have all these services in Amazon, AWS, Amazon Web Services, computing services. This is where they basically create computers. Here they create disk drives. Here they have the database, tools for developing and coding and deploying the code, other management panels. This where they manage the security. So it's basically like a big operating system in the sky, doing analytics and so on, Internet of Things, mobile application servers and so on. So we don't use all of these, but we do use the one that's the code deploy. And so the code deploy is where we have our production servers. And what I do is I I go and I grab, and this is the group where I deploy it, and I put that long location of the tar file. It's in it's either in GitHub or an S3 bucket, like I was telling you, like in AWS S3. And then we deploy it. We can either hit one at a time of our servers out there, and our servers in production actually scale automatically. Right now, there's probably 6 or so instances. But if it gets really busy, it just automatically scales up. We can get up to 50 servers all being handled using a load balancer, and it's all done automatically and dynamically. So, and regardless of how many servers it's scaled up to, all I have to do is choose this, and I usually go like half the time. And what that does means take the group that we've got going right now. Let's say it's 8, and take half out of the load balancer, which means leave the other 4 in, and they basically double up on their traffic, because I'm taking out 4 of them, and I'm basically going to deploy the code to the 4 that are taken out of the load balancer, and they'll be this next version. And then I put those back in the load balancer, and I immediately take out the other half. And so those will do double time while I'm working on the other half of servers. So I'm working on 4 servers all the time, deploying the code, and we do this. It all happens in parallel, and this happens in a matter of minutes or seconds even. And then when that's done, I put those back, and then they go back to a normal usage, let's say 8 servers, and we basically have upgraded our software. And we do this many times during the day. We're deploying our website to the to production, and so I have I take that tar file here, and then I make a post on the in our Slack channel. Slack is our messaging system, and what I do is I make a little post in the Slack channel. It says, "Hey everybody, we just had a live release, and on this date, this is the shorthand of the SHA from the Git." And then you click here, and it says exactly what files changed with this release, and you can look right here, and basically this went from this to this, and so I have this little link here. This is what I do. I have this link that I will get. It's a dynamic link depending on the release, and if we release it, then somebody can go look and see, oh, what just changed? Well, these files just changed, and here are the changes right here. That this is what just happened to our system. So every time I deploy it, instantaneously I can tell everybody what just changed in the entire system. From was this, now those files are this. So that's in a nutshell how we do what we do here at Unique.
Sweet.
So I'm curious. I kind of got the feeling you were following very closely everything I was explaining, and I explained that like in that detail just because you've got your computer science degree, number one. Number two, you're working on, I think, a web development. Is
yeah.
That so
yeah.
I wanted you to understand that whole infrastructure. Just to be clear. So now let me just wrap up what's happening. I think I saw that somebody wanted to see. This means that 2 people are trying to get a hold of me.
You're like, no.
Yeah. So so here, let's see. Back to our home page. Here, I wanted to first make sure we're clear on course description here. Drawing and animation techniques for creating. I think you've already had TES 246.
Yeah.
Creating compelling objects, interactive environments. Topics include applying the principles of traditional animation using the basic software toolset. Upon completion, students will be able to use scenes, movie clips, masks, and compound objects to create animated buttons, graphics, illustrations, and interfaces. Now, our tool of choice is Adobe Animate, and this is formerly Flash Professional. And I'm quite sure that this is what you used in DES 246.
Yeah.
And So as you probably know the story behind this, formerly, or it still is the case, but exclusively it used to be Adobe Flash Professional only created a binary file format that was called a Swift file, SWF file, and that Swift file is dependent upon the Flash player being present and installed on the client system. So with that being present like that, every computer or device that wanted to play a Flash animation had to have the Flash player. Well, when Steve Jobs came around, he kind of didn't like that idea. And he didn't want to have the Flash player on his iPhone, and literally that kind of, if you ever check it out, it's quite interesting. The conversation around Adobe Flash just plummeted, and I want to show you a graphic to kind of give you a feel for this, how the conversation changed almost overnight with the let's see Flash, and let me see, find trends. So this is just showing these past 5 years. I wish it showed you before. Job seeker interest. You can just see the conversation about Flash just really plummeted.
Yeah, there was a while that I was even irritated with Flash, because every time you went to a website, it was like you need Flash installed. It's like, well, wait a minute, what am I flashing install? And this is before I had my degrees, but yeah, I was just like, seriously, need Adobe Flash. Well, I don't want to look at the website anymore.
Yeah. So JavaScript is open source, and so Apache kind of said, well, we better change our framework infrastructure. And so now Adobe Flash, they even took the name away. They wanted to get away from the bad rap that Adobe Flash had, so they actually renamed it to this Adobe Animate. Although they still support the old ActionScript scripting language, they are now preferring that you create your templates using the HTML5 canvas template file, and this is going to create animations with HTML5 and also JavaScript. So the combination of HTML5 and JavaScript can do to a certain amount of what can be done with ActionScript 3.0. It's trying to play catch up. In fact, the scope of HTML5 really was WW3. WW3 schools. Let's see. WW3schools.com, something like that. I didn't get it right. Let's see, W3 schools, I think it is. So this website you can look at. I really love this website. It teaches you about HTML, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and so on. And the thing that is really interesting about this is it explains very clearly that HTML5 was designed really to be a kind of like a Flash killer, quote unquote. No, I wouldn't say that. Maybe a Flash replacement. And so the functionality of going from HTML4 to HTML5 was very much in an effort to supplant the dependency upon the Adobe Flash player. And so what's happening is HTML5 browsers can support HTML5. It's built into it. The newer browsers, it also can handle JavaScript and obviously CSS. So the browsers in and of themselves were getting more and more robust, and they can handle animations, and so it's no longer dependent upon this piece of code sitting there called Flash Player to do all the processing. So hence the context for HTML5 and the context for Adobe. It had a great tool here, and so it's going to get the best of both worlds. And so they need to change out the plumbing underneath. They can't use their own ActionScript 3.0 scripting language, at least in that context with just a browser. This is completely dependent upon the Flash player being present. Whereas this here, HTML5, can just work with the browser, but we also have JavaScript. So Adobe is kind of saying, whoa, we still need a scripting language because we can't use this ActionScript 3.0. And so what they did is they partnered with, you might know this already, createjs.com. They partnered with this organization. You can see down here at the bottom. Here we got sponsored by Adobe, Microsoft. So this is open source, and what this is a library of JavaScript routines, and actually 4 different modules to it. Large library or these are like sub libraries. So this sub library of JavaScript routines deals with drawing. This one deals with animation. This one is for multimedia, and this is for like a preloader. And so if you click on these, there's actually many APIs that are being supported by this sub library. And so you see all these here. Now here's what's interesting. This whole library is being, all 4 of these, depending upon what you're doing here in Animate, this will, when you generate your code and you publish it, it actually is dependent upon this whole library system. And so it'll literally include in the output, in the HTML that it generates, it will have references to go and grab the Easel.js library, a JavaScript library, off of the createjs.com website, or go and grab this JavaScript library, or this one, depending on what you're doing here in your application and animation. It'll go and grab it. So this course is, and that creates it. It publishes it, and that's how Adobe was able to come up to speed so quickly to be able to replace out the animation, the drawing, and so on, all that componentry, because they tapped this big library. They tapped it, and because it was already done. And so this course is going to be focusing on animation. And the only way that we're able to do animation in JavaScript is because they tapped into this library right here. All these libraries, but this one in particular because it's Twing JS. And so when we look at our HTML5 output, when we publish our first animations, you'll be able to scan down and see references to some of the components. Some of these components will be right in the output that's automatically generated by Adobe Animate in the publishing process. So how are you doing on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 10 in keeping up with everything I just explained?
I'd say about a 10.
Good. I kind of thought so. And that's why I went as fast as I did. And that's why I went into the detail, because I just really figured with your background in computer science, number 1, and with your background in web, number 2, and all the exposure you've had, I just figured you were going to be right on my wavelength. So I'm really glad that you just tracked with me on that whole conversation.
Yeah, I think it makes it easier for the both of us. I've already finished part of my storyboard. I've just got to do the part 1, I should say.
All right, good. So you're clear on the objectives this week. What I'd like to do is adjourn for a short period, and I can maybe get back to doing some things that I guess are waiting on me right now. And let's see, I'd like to reconvene later today, if possible, and we'll pick up where we left off. I'd like to go over these sections later today, okay. And I'd like to keep going until we're all the way through the discussion, and then you've already posted there. That's good. I noticed that earlier, and then we'll talk about the assignment, and then we'll actually go over the assessment. So we got still got a long ways to go to get through everything. But I think I'd like to adjourn for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Get some,
What time is what you looking at?
I was thinking 5 o'clock. Is it? Are you Mountain Standard Time?
Yeah. So five is five.
Okay, good.
Up here too.
Would that work?
So then, yeah. I will log back on at 5.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thanks, Chip.
All right. We'll see you. Take care.
Okay. See ya.
Okay, bye. I think it's working, and you probably see my screen. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, and so as I was mentioning before, the tool itself, Adobe Animate here, yeah, it is literally Adobe Flash Professional, and the code base is the same. They just have rebranded it and renamed it, and now it comes out of the cloud, and so they want to leverage it. Adobe does, and they're trying to make it so that those who have done development in Adobe Flash using ActionScript 3.0, creating animations. So this creates the SWF file, publishes for the Adobe Flash player. So they're trying to take and facilitate moving their developers from developing in ActionScript 3.0 to developing in JavaScript and using this HTML5 canvas. So this is the new scripting language. What's ironic is ActionScript 3.0 is actually the third iteration of ActionScript. And ActionScript 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and with each iteration, ActionScript evolved to be more and more like a European standard called ECMAScript. And JavaScript and ECMAScript, and the ECMAScript they're related. And as ActionScript 3.0 became more similar to ECMAScript, it also kind of became more similar to JavaScript. So ECMAScript, trademarked as standardized by ECMA International, that is actually a European standards committee. And it basically, it's a definition of a scripting language. It was based on JavaScript, which now tracks ECMAScript. So it's kind of interesting. ECMAScript, the standard, was based upon JavaScript, but now JavaScript now tracks ECMAScript. So JavaScript is open source, and there hasn't been really a defining committee, and so it's kind of evolved. The W3, you probably have heard of the WWW3 organization that. Let's see. I think it's worldwide. Let's see. It's the World Wide Web Consortium. They're the ones defining the standards. There it is. W3. Okay, it's not WW. W3. It's just W3. This is the standards group, the international standards group that's defining They literally are the ones defining the standards for HTML5. They come up with what that means. They are the ones who. So you click on standards here. And so they're into defining all these open source, open technologies so that browsers are all on the same page, and the usage of XML and so on. So this group, have you ever heard of this group before?
Oh, yeah. I've got them actually saved on my computer. I go and pop in every so often when I have a question, or I'm looking for a certain code that
Awesome.
might do X or Y, kind of thing.
Okay.
Good. So yeah, me and W3 are best friends.
Very, very good. So you know the history. You know they're the ones defining the standard, and they're the ones defining JavaScript and so on, the standard. And this is, as you can see right now, most common scripting language, ECMAScript, more widely known as JavaScript, is developed by ECMA. A great many APIs made available in browsers have been defined at W3C. So defining the standard and for that browser developers, software companies are going to use and consume and build into their browsers is comes from this group. And so
So then ECMA is basically becoming like the new JavaScript. Is that, and is it going to be like more open source like JavaScript is, or is it evolving into something else?
Well, what's interesting is JavaScript is more popular than ECMAScript. And so because of its popularity, it therefore gets embraced and especially gets embraced by browser developers, the companies that produce the browser software, such as Microsoft, Internet Explorer, or Mozilla, the organization that creates Firefox, or Google, the organization that has Google Chrome. So they're paying attention to the most commonly used scripting language, which is JavaScript. So, but JavaScript kind of didn't have a daddy, meaning it kind of didn't have a defining group and standard. And so because they're kind of missing out on that, that's why they gravitated towards ECMAScript and the organization ECMA International, because they didn't really have, just as the original versions of HTML kind of went through some evolution, and one browser would do some things one way and a different browser do it a different way, and so you have this mismatch between browsers. That is a similar problem that we'd be having with JavaScript. And so JavaScript didn't want to have that same issue, so they latched on to this organization, and this is the organization that began. They tracked it, and so and its standards. So the ECMAScript that came from that organization originally started with them, and now it was based on JavaScript, and so JavaScript now tracks this, and so there's kind of I think this group here, this W3 standards group, it too is paying attention to the ECMAScript. Most common scripting language, ECMAScript, more widely known as JavaScript. So here they actually call it's interchangeable. What's ironic is this doesn't say that they're interchangeable. It says that they're distinct, but it's developed by ECMA. That's that organization we've looked at. A great many of the APIs made available in browsers have been defined at W3C. So we kind of have two institutions that are basically making up the rules for syntax of JavaScript. The APIs are not necessarily syntax. ECMAScript really was focusing on defining the grammar of JavaScript and the syntax, and so that's that. When it comes to APIs, but those are, as you know, that is components that are built using JavaScript language, and those components have interfaces into it. So you basically build a framework, and I'm sure you have heard of these, but there are frameworks of JavaScript that are out there. Frameworks are basically libraries of code that have an API, and jQuery is an example of a framework. It's JavaScript, a JavaScript library. And it's a library of routines. Basically, it has an API associated with it, meaning here's all the calls that you run to get into it. And so here's the calls, and so jQuery is a library of components that's an API that you can call and consume. You basically include it. Last night we talked about the library of APIs that Adobe Animate is consuming, Create.js. These are special purpose. This is along the lines of the order of jQuery, this type of library. I don't know if you've heard of the Bootstrap infrastructure. That too is out there. Always trying to establish some standards. That organization is, here's JavaScript, the language, whereas jQuery is a little library of components built using JavaScript. Create.js, also a library of components, not necessarily competing with jQuery because jQuery kind of has other things and tasks that it does, but this one definitely aligns itself with the functionality of what Adobe Flash can do. So it's along the lines of this Create.js is actually an extension to a certain extent of what HTML and CSS and JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and anything inherent into JavaScript. Where this falls short, HTML5 plus CSS3, you know the difference between CSS3. CSS3 came out with HTML5, and it right here was also kind of went hand in hand with HTML5. The two of them worked together, and in an effort to really take over some of the functionality that we used to be dependent upon with the Flash runtime. And so so this along extends it further, extends what the CSS3 can do, or HTML5 can do. Right now, when we create these in Adobe Flash, if we use this HTML5 canvas, we're going to be able to publish it, and the output is going to be an HTML5 document. Have you already published? Have you already in DS246? Did you use this HTML5 canvas?
Yeah, we use that, and I vaguely remember publishing.
Okay.
Publishing the website or the HTML5. I do believe I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, I'm familiar with the publishing. I just would probably need a refresher on it.
Yeah.
I mean, so, I'm sure it's like riding a bike.
Yeah, and so now let me do this again. Let's see. So now when we create an animation, let's see, remove the motion tree, insert keyframe, position. So now when we have this animation, like this, now you can see we created it using the canvas, so that enables us to output HTML5. So what I'm going to do is publish. So here's an animation that just took place. File, publish, settings. Let's look at those really quickly. And these are the options that it gives us. You want to publish in JavaScript HTML, or do you just want a picture, an OM package, or SVG image? And we want to have the animation itself. And it's saying, okay, where do you want to put the JavaScript output? And where do you want me to export images, sound assets, Create.js assets? See that right there?
Yeah.
Libraries. This is the connection, like I told you before, to the Create.js componentry that's over here.
Okay.
So let's just leave that all checked like that. Click OK. And I'm going to do just publish now. And so it says here, it makes a little statement. It says, hey, by the way, we just got to let you know that one thing, this Easel.js, remember that that's right here. See that Easel.js right there?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's saying, hey, we just got to let you know that there's a convention about Easel.js. Its frame numbers actually start at 0 instead of 1. And it's basically talking about this here. And so it's a little bit of a disconnect, a mismatch between numbering, the framing numbering system of Adobe Flash, or excuse me, Adobe Animate, because this says your first frame is called number 1, whereas this is saying, that's one of the things where we're a little bit off from what Easel.js library does, and that is because Easel.js actually thinks its first frame is 0. So Easel.js this Create.js was not made for Adobe Animate. It actually, Adobe Animate says, hey, we need a library of good graphical routines, and they came over here and says, hey, can we use you? And they sucked them in, just like a browser sucks in like a JavaScript interpreter or an HTML5 interpreter. So did Adobe Animate suck in, I put it like that, it's all these components that were here just so that it could do what it used to be able to do so easily using ActionScript 3 and the SWF. So I think we've got that created. So file, save as, let me see where it went. It is right here. Let me put it on the desktop. Let's call it Animate. This is just saving the project file. It says, hey, before you're going to publish, you got to first get you to save the project file to begin with. So now we're going to be able to publish. And if we go look in that folder up on our desktop here, there it is right there. This FLA file, that's the project file that we do our editing in. And that's the file that this Adobe Animate works with directly for animation. I mean, for editing purposes. So when I make changes in my animation out here in the project, this is the file that's getting tweaked. It's at the point that I publish those, like we just did, that we've generated these two other files. As you can see, there's 2 separate files, Adobe Animate HTML and then JavaScript. And so if we just double click on this one, it will run it. Now, it does a loop because that was the default setting. And it's just looping back. So what I want to do is have you now inspect this here, and we'll go look at the code. And that's going to get a little annoying there.
That's where you put in pause buttons. Am I going to be doing that? Putting in pause, start and stop?
Yes, yeah, you can definitely do that. Let's see.
Oh yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm going to be a little faster.
I vaguely remember that too.
It's going to be faster if I
just take off the loop.
So I know the answer, but why is it still doing this?
Because you haven't refreshed the page yet.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Very smart. Very good. Okay, so we're inspecting this element. This was output in our publish process, the HTML file. We saw that. Now, we also see that there's some styles associated with this. If I open up the head section, do you happen to know, are you able to read this and tell me what it means?
Yeah, you've got right where it says meta charts, or right underneath it, the title, animate is what you named it. And then the script, the SRC script, is technically the website that it created. And again, the animate.js, that's the JavaScript it wrote.
Very good. Very, very good. What's this referencing right here?
That is referencing the JavaScript, the create.js code, that gives it the what, like the web browser name, and where to find it, like the web address.
Okay. And what is this thing that it's including here?
It looks like it took. It's saying the date and how long it is. That like 26 seconds, or is that that's the IP address, isn't it?
Well, that's a year. This is a month. That's a day.
Oh, okay. So, but it's not 11/26. So is that when that code was created?
Yes.
Okay.
So what is in this file? What in general, what kind of file is that file?
That would be the JavaScript that was created when the animate was updated or switched over,
Okay.
right? Or
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how positive are you of that?
I'm like a 5.
Okay. That's good. I believe you that you're a 5 on that.
Oh, I forgot about Dreamweaver.
Okay, now Dreamweaver is not part of this course, but
No, but I use it quite frequently.
you do? Okay.
Yeah.
The nice thing about Dreamweaver when it comes to what we're looking at is what? What's the nice thing?
That I like how it organizes everything for me personally, but I'm sure there's a different reason we like Dreamweaver over. I favor Dreamweaver because it does that. It gives you, like, on the right hand side, it gives you the code, breaks it down, and it gives you if you have any errors, and it gives you what you're changing next with that split screen.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What's the difference between what I'm doing here and what I am doing here?
This is just you laying out the stuff. It gives you the visual stuff. With Dreamweaver, it gives you the code that it basically writes the code for you and gives you the actions that you did from that picture. So since you dragged it left, it will write the code in Dreamweaver saying that you took the circle and dragged it left.
Okay. Let's go look over at Dreamweaver here. And so this is the code. And what was the process that this code got generated?
Like by using the JavaScript?
Yeah, what did I do that caused this code to be created? What did I do?
With this screen, you added in the publish.
Very good. That's the answer right there I was looking for. Just by the fact that I published, or let me put it this way, Adobe Animate generated the output files, and this is what the files that we're looking at.
Okay.
We're looking at the output from the process of publishing. So we published, and now we're actually editing the output file. Now, why we don't still see the object over here? It's kind of,
Where'd it go?
yeah, I don't know why Adobe Dreamweaver thinks that it can not display that anymore. But this is the HTML. Now, look right up here. What is this up in here?
That is the same as what was on the inquiry or the inspect that you pulled up. The same date, year, and yeah, that.
Okay. So
So that's the information it uses to call that file. Is that correct?
yeah, this is a reference to the file name. And what Dreamweaver is going to do is, hey, you are referencing a couple files. And I am going to tell you what those files are, because here you're in the code, you're referencing them. And so I'm going to put a little shortcut to them right here. So if I click on them, I leave the HTML file and I open up this file right here. So I click on it. Now, what language is this?
That's the CSS information that gives you the background and all the fun little goodies that, you know, like your title, where you want your title, where you want your it's got the shape and up there, and the width and the height of that of the circle, and it also gives in reference like the XY, where it's located, and all that, basically that what color it is, and the more design the design to that file.
Okay. So I'm going to throw a little wrench into this process that we're going through right now. Now, the wrench I'm going to throw in is this caveat, this kind of, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but the wrench, I'm actually looking for a plug right now because I'm watching my battery
slowly go down.
Yeah, I cannot afford for this to cut out on me. So I'm going to throw a wrench into the equation here. And here's the wrench. Whoops. I just kind of unplugged my light. So I've got it now. Okay, good. And then, okay, here's the wrench that I'm going to throw into what we're doing. And the wrench is, if, on a scale of 1 to 10, if your answer, if you are not a 10 on the answer, and in other words, a minute ago I asked you on a scale of 1 to 10 how you know, and you said a 5, and I said, I believe you. So I'm just going to throw this wrench into it, and I hope you are okay with this wrench. The wrench is this. If you're anything less than a perfect 10, I want you to, if you're a 1 through 9, I want you to, just for the sake of conversation, to say, I don't know for sure. And what that will do, and I want you to know something, I would rather you to be completely accurate on saying, I don't know for sure, if you're a 1 through 9, then I want you to not be positive and like be a 7. So let's rewind so you get the wrench that I'm throwing into the equation. I'm basically saying, unless you're a perfect 10, I want you to say I don't know for sure. So that's going to be 1 through 9. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's stellar.
That's fine? Okay, we're good. Okay, again, I'd rather that I don't know for sure than that. Okay, so what language is this file?
That would be the JavaScript.
Yeah, excellent, right. This is the file that was generated by what?
Not for sure on that.
Okay, good. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want to hear you say. So this was generated in the process, right at the moment that I did file publish. That right there just generated it. It literally rewrote this file. And so the answer to the question is, what process What was the process that caused that file to be created and written? Well, it is the process of publishing. And so the moment that I published from Adobe Flash, and right there, it rewrote both files. It rewrote this file, and it also rewrote this file here. And we know that because if we go out and look at the folder, we see right there 820 and then 820. So the process of publishing rewrites this output file, HTML, and so now this here is also what kind of file?
That's also the JavaScript file.
Excellent. And this is a reference, and here's where you can see it. This is how Adobe Animate can consume a complete library. Watch this. I'm going to click on this. It's the same thing as if I were to open up this file. Out there in the website, it'd be the same thing if I just kind of grab this and grab the
copied
URL.
it and paste it.
Yeah, copied it. So I clicked on it, and now it goes out. It says, hey, I'm an editor. I'm a Dreamweaver editor. The thing I do is I edit HTML files. I also I edit JavaScript files. I also edit CSS files. And someone just clicked on you. And what we just did is the editor said, hey, can you give me you as though you were here? And so it grabbed it, just like the browser grabs it. And so the editor, this Dreamweaver, went and grabbed it. And it brought it here locally. But look at the little warning.
Create a GS is a remote file and cannot be edited. So this means that it's protected and you can't edit it. That's
right. The reason I can't edit it is they allowed me to read it and get a copy of it and bring it down to my editor, but I cannot save it back there because it's their server. It's their code. And there's the guy right there, G Skinner.
G Skinner. He's the one that wrote the code for the Create.js. Is that safe? Okay, then that is to be safe too. So he created that November 24th in 2015. Is that what I gather?
Yes, and to be a little bit more dialed in, this is the release of the Create.js libraries on November 26, 2015. This is the file that this program here, when it was written, was designed to work with. So Adobe Animate, see that 2015 release, and this is the build, and that's like probably, I'm not sure, but so this is.
So then I got a question then. So then, with it being released on 2015 and the same code that G Skinner did, that's the same kind of tag that you get when you publish the animate files. Is that correct? Like the same timestamp, like you timestamped it or you published it at 8:20 today, right? That gives you the same date as it would as this G Skinner chap published that code.
I understand your question, and here's the answer. We're going to be putting a new timestamp. Every time we publish, we get to write these two files out. And every time we do a publish, it updates the date. So we get to write these. We don't get to write this one. And so it's kind of like, hey, Grant, we're going to create our own program here. It's called Adobe Animate. And we need to get a solid copy of your release of your library so that we can consume it, and so that it's stable, and so that as going forward, when people use Adobe Animate over and over and over, because we are married to this exact version of your library, we're going to we're going to point to that particular version when we generate, when this code here, when Adobe Animate generates its code back in 2015, this is when this application was developed. And they had to marry themselves to a release that was current at the time, that was the most solid release from the Grant Skinner's team, the Create.js component. And so this is the exact version of a release of their product. This does not change. Every time, we can do this for 10 years, and it will always tie to this one. The reason is the application itself, the Adobe Animate, this 2015 release, if this doesn't upgrade at all, and if we never do an upgrade, then every time we create something and we publish it, we'll always point to this release that's sitting out on their website. Now, if we were to upgrade Adobe Animate to, let's say, the 2016 release, then we would generate more code, and it would not be this release. It would be a more recent release from the Create.js Grant Skinner folks team. It wouldn't be this old release. The reason why we tie to it like this is because it's like we marry our code with that library, and we can't have either of them change. If one of them changes, then we have to have the other one change. And so this marriage exists as long as this program doesn't get upgraded. If this upgraded, we're going to discover that it also upgraded exactly what version of the Create.js library that it's going to consume. So I don't know what the current release is, but okay, look at that. There's a chance that he hasn't even developed it since then. That looks like it's the last release.
It's the last release, yeah.
Now, isn't it interesting? They call it installation, and all we're doing is we're having our HTML file consume that library. I think it's ironic. I would have guessed that they would have released this library. I guess Grant Skinner has moved on to bigger and better things, and while this code is stable, this is the one. And so even though it's a year and a half or so, I guess not. Yeah, the full
it's
year.
it's almost right there. I mean, we're just a month shy.
Yeah, and so so it's kind of weird. They call it installation when we're basically just referencing the whole library, and this is exactly the browser support and so on. And there it is.
For the correct me if I'm wrong on this. For the longest time, the Flash and the Adobe really didn't work on Apple and Safari and all of that until they put the code in for that. Is that correct?
Let's see, Flash and Adobe. There wasn't.
Or Adobe didn't work on Apple.
Yeah, there was definitely a parting of the ways. Steve Jobs did not want to. He did not want to facilitate the Flash runtime on his iPhone, and here's one of the reasons why. He made up these reasons. He said, "Oh yeah, it's buggy, it's big, it's not open source, it's proprietary, and it crashes, and we don't want it." And so, because it's his hardware and his software, the iPhone iOS software, he can say that. And he says, sorry, we're not going to let you put your program on our iPhone. That's what sent shivers throughout the whole system. So you were asking about whether or not the marriage between the two and how it evolved. Well, that was kind of like the divorce, if you will, when Steve Jobs said, we're not going to put the Flash runtime on our iPhone. And in fact, we're going to stop installing the Flash runtime on our Mac systems from out the factory. We're so opposed to the Flash runtime. Not only are we opposed to it in the context of mobile apps and development, but we're also opposed to even putting the Flash runtime, pre-installing it right on the OS in our factory. So when you buy a Mac, you're going to have to download and install it yourself. We're not going to pre-do that for you. And so, sure enough, that's what happened. And
So it became more of a Windows type. Windows took advantage of all of that.
yeah, Windows didn't have the same issues that Steve Jobs did. And so it goes ahead and they pre-install the Flash runtime. And so now we are left with now trying to accommodate this open HTML5. This here is the by the way, one thing that this Adobe Animate doesn't do is take advantage of CSS3, because this is just an HTML5 document. It does take advantage of the Create.js library right there, and that gets all sucked in. I don't know if you saw that, but it kind of looks all compressed. And what that means is, see this MIN right there?
Yeah.
That is minimized. And minimized
means it minimized. Doesn't that just mean like it scrunched the screen?
Yeah, suck out all the what?
All of the, I don't know.
Very good. I love it when you say I don't know. I actually do. And what it does is it sucks out all the white space. And white space is, watch this. I'm going to paste, I can paste that, and let's see, by doing this, there it does. So what just happened is I took the code. See, the reason why they suck out all the white space is tabs, it's carriage returns, it's spaces where they're not needed, and it's kind of like inhaling a balloon, just pulling out all the air. The reason they do that is this becomes smaller. And because the browser is going to be downloading this, we want to take out any extra characters. So any white space we don't need. We don't need tabs. You know, the computer doesn't.
So it makes it load it faster.
That's right.
Okay.
And so that's the
so instead of having to waste the space.
That's right. This is just the computer having to read this, and the computer doesn't need, you know, the tabs. The tabs and all that, the space, that's good for humans to read. And so, so what I did is I copied all this compressed JavaScript, and I pasted it online into this online thing, and then I clicked here. And what it did is it blew back in all the tabs and all the spaces. And so that's why this is human readable. But it's got lots of carriage returns. See, look how big it is here.
Wow.
You know, it's just huge.
1,000, 3,000, 4,000 lines extra.
Yes.
That would just take it longer to load. Is that?
Exactly. And what I thought I could do is bring this in, and we'll see exactly how many characters actually were introduced. So here, animate full.js is the one I just saved out with all, and you can see it's 289 KB. Now the animate
regular file, the HTML is only one.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me go back to this here, this here, this here. Copy that, and let's see, where did I do that? let's see. I want to go into Dreamweaver. No, yeah, let's see. I want to do file new again. File new and do JavaScript and then file save as. And then we'll do animate min. And we go out and look here. So animate min, 191 KB. Animate full, that's blown up with all the white space, 289 KB. So that's 100 KB. That's 100,000 bytes of white space that's sucked out of it in order to, and that's why they suck up, you know, because it's almost half the size of what it was, or 2/3. You know, it used to be like 300 and is now 200. So it's about half. Let's see, maybe 2/3 the size it was. So that's the value of doing that. So that's why this is min. That's why it's all compressed. If I create the library for people to use, I'm going to suck out all the air and I'm going to put that on the website. And now, because your application does not care about white space at all, your computer doesn't care, and so that's the one that you're going to consume. That's why this is all compressed. 100,000 white space characters less than the other. And so this is the library. This is the full thing. Let's see if I can go into here, or maybe back into Dreamweaver, and in the one that's full here, and we can start looking for easel. Let me see if that comes up. Let's see, createjs.easel.js, and createjs is the library component, and then there's easel.js, and see, here's preload.js, and so this code is all the components. This is basically the API of the createjs library, but this is all the components, and they make it so you can just copy and paste it. Adobe Animate needs it though, because they make calls into that from their from here. So here now, let's go look at just the JavaScript that's generated. Remember, this is HTML, and it sucks in. It includes the large library that came from createjs, and it also includes the creates the full library, but it also includes here. This is the custom JavaScript file that the publishing process also created. And now here in this thing, this is going to leverage and make calls into the into that library. So every time we make calls in here, they get resolved by functions in there. So we're going to, that's how we take advantage of the library. We make calls, but the calls are found declared in this full library. And that's how Adobe Animate takes advantage of the createjs library in generating JavaScript and HTML. And I went over time, so I'm a little bit concerned. So why don't we call it a night? And I'd like to pick up tomorrow morning. What I meant to do is to go over the readings and materials and what's due this week. I think you may have already begun planning your storyline. Is that true?
Yeah, I've actually have my storyline itself finished. I just need to do the part one where I have to write the paper and all that fun stuff of like each scene.
Okay, very good. Have you ever heard of a flip book?
A flip book? No.
Flip book?
Oh, a flip book. Yes, those are really cool.
Yes. So this is a very good analogy for what Adobe Animate can do. A flip book. Each of these pages is what over here? Each of the pages is represented by what in Adobe Animate World?
That was a tween.
In general, this is a tween. That's what you can see here. When a tween is when the computer goes ahead and basically extrapolates and does what you don't have to do. A tween is actually the opposite of a flipbook animation, because back in the olden days when we made cartoons, we would have one page for each position of, we'd have, that's what basically what a flip book is. So back in the olden days with the cartoons, each of these pages was a different picture, and that's basically what each of these dots is, technically a different picture on our screen, but it's a tween because Adobe Animate went ahead and quote unquote drew that picture. In other words, when I scrub right here, see, it drew that picture, it drew that picture, it drew that picture. And when you create a tween, it says, hey, don't worry about it, I'll do the interim pictures here. So this is kind of a flip book in that each frame is a different page. And that was the question I was wanting you to answer, or I was asking you is, okay, each page corresponds to each what?
Each movement.
What do we call each of these?
Frame.
Very good.
Keyframe.
That's right. In general, it's a frame. It's a keyframe, and if an object appears and has a position on that frame, but in general, each a frame. So each frame is comparable to what over here?
Each frame is, I'm not totally for sure what you're.
Okay, that's fine. I'm glad that you're saying it like that. So each page, if I were to pause it, this picture right there corresponds to, just as though I paused this.
Oh, okay. So you paused it on. So each picture is a frame.
That's the answer I've been looking for. That's exactly right. Each picture is a frame. That's the correlation between a flip book and an animation.
Okay.
Each picture is a frame. Now with a tween, it says, don't worry, I got this. You give me the first picture and you give me the last picture and I will fill in the rest. So see that little object there?
Yeah.
The first picture position, it says, okay, give me the first picture. And see the little dot over there? It says right here. And give me, actually we have two, but and so this is this picture. So every time you see a little black dot, we've provided them, quote unquote, a picture. In other words, we set it up. Now, these other little dots, those are frames. And they are drawings. Each of them are individual drawings, but it's the computer that's handling it. And so these interim things, they are still frames, but we're not drawing them. So if I did something like that and scrub, each of those are like pages. Each of them is a separate drawing, more or less. But with Adobe Flash, you can actually give it an object name, and you can make it do things on the object level rather than just being drawn. So here, each page corresponds to each frame. Frame, page. And so when we go flipping through a flip book, it's as though we did what over here?
Oh, as you flip through the page. Do that again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's totally fine. Saying I'm sorry, not if you need me to say it again, I just want you to know, totally cool with that. Totally cool. So, what I basically said is if I press play here, that corresponds to if I
push play on the anime.
exactly.
Okay. And then each dot, basically, I mean, if I, in one point they put a microphone stand in there, that equates to a different dot. Is that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, if we had a different object, we'd want to create a different layer. Put that thing on its layer, and it too could have its own animation if we wanted. And so right here in this example, we would have like an object, the guy, and then maybe an object of the table. So each of these pictures is a frame. And so when I press play, it's the same thing as though I press play here. And again, the tween is really, for all intents and purposes, it's like, hey, let me take the load off of you of having, because here, that's a big load, man. He's probably got 1,000 pictures there, and he had to draw every single one. And
I don't know if I'd have the patience. I mean, one false line and you've ruined the flip book.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Look at that.
time right there.
It's a lot of things to draw.
Yeah, that is. I wouldn't be able to do all those.
Yes. Now, technically, if our animation works well, where it does motion or it does motion or size or color tweens on that, then it works well. If we had like a butterfly that's flying, we would probably have to write and create every single tween. And you can do that, but we'd have a black dot on each of these frames, meaning we did work for that spot. We did work for that spot. We did work. If every place there's a black dot, we did work. If there's no black spot and it's a tween, the computer's going to do the work for us. But a black spot. So if we had an animation of a butterfly, and we couldn't move the things in a way of a tween, we'd have to write each one of these in the same way this guy had to write each one of his, of his. Each of these are hand drawn. Look at this. This is pretty interesting because
that's pretty cool.
And this is what he's drawn from it. It's correlation there.
Wow. I'll stick with technology.
Yeah. I'm kind of lazy. I'll let the tween do the talking.
Yeah, no problem on that.
So this week, if you just look through these readings and tools, the how-to and the storyboard, that's the standard one. This is the program that we're using. This is a just kind of a how-to on creating a 2D character animation. This might give you some ideas about all the things that we do. And that's a 42-hour one, so if you can watch that. And then the discussion, we've already responded to that, so you're good there. Yeah, so this here question, meaning that you answered this question so that it makes sense. So and talking about your 2D animation. So tomorrow we can talk more about the assignment. We'll do that in the morning, and then maybe in the afternoon. So we can maybe do an hour working on an assignment, and you and I can work together, review that, and then in the afternoon we can spend another hour, and we can go over the readings, videos, and the quiz itself, and just make sure we're on the same page. Now, what I'd like to do, we can all do, also let's plan on doing this tomorrow. And that is, what I'd like to do is show you we can do in class the quizzes that we missed on Monday and Tuesday when you were not in the class. And then I'll set your answer on that. I can't reopen it or something like that, but I can definitely manually tweak the grade book. And so we'll do those in class tomorrow. Just please remind me in case I forget.
Okay, I'll attempt to. If not, it's not a biggie. It's only 10 points.
Okay. All right. Well, once again, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I really, really, really enjoyed talking to you. I have to admit it's because you're so skilled that I really enjoy, and you really are following me really well. So that's really made it easy for me to go into pretty deep detail about all this, and so I feel really good about your foundation understanding now as we go forward. Now, when you design your storyboard, you can keep in mind some of the capabilities of that Create.js library, but we are a little bit dependent upon what Adobe Animate decides to consume. I use the word consume when I mean make calls into. So anyways, we'll talk more. So right now, let's tentatively plan on 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, let's see, 11 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking maybe my lunchtime. You know what? I just thought of something. I think 12 would be actually better, and that way I won't conflict with my work hours. I don't know. I wasn't totally thinking. So let's do my lunch hour. Would that work for you, 12 o'clock?
That's totally fine. Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. Okay. See you at noon tomorrow, and text me or email me or message me, whatever, if you have any concerns, questions, or need to reschedule. Okay?
Okay. I appreciate it, Instructor Brown. And you have a good night.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
it's been, once again, a pleasure talking with you, and I look forward to talking with you in the morning, Crystal.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night.
Good night.